Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the films today. My name is Pearson Coons. I'm the artistic director of Golden Pride Productions, and I'm also a educator in Portland schools. And I am so excited to introduce our panelists today. First up, we have Sommer Martin, who is a screenwriter, an ethnographic documentarian, and also the director of Another Day. Let's welcome in Summer. Hello, Summer.
Hello.
All right. Next, we have Melissa Lowery, who's the director of the second film you watched, Black Girl in Suburbia. And she's here with her two daughters, who are also in the film, Jayla and Shay. Jayla is just graduated high school, headed to LMU to become an elementary school teacher. So we got another teacher on the panel. And then Shay is a sophomore right now. And last but certainly not least, we have Bobbi MacKenzie, the star of Another Day. Hello, Bobbi.
Hi.
She is a Broadway actress, a local sophomore, and an absolute icon, if you ask me.
Thank
Welcome, everybody.
You sound
Family
funny.
here
You know, I gotta keep it real and professional for the people. Well, let's jump right into it. So everyone is here. They have just seen Another Day, the narrative depiction of this experience as being one of the only Black students in a predominantly white school. And then we watched Black Girl in Suburbia, which is a documentary look at that. So real footage of real teachers and students and Jayla and Shay themselves in the film, much younger at that point. And so now we're coming into this, and we're in this moment of Black Lives Matter, this current thrust that happened post George Floyd's death. I want to start off with the question, how do these films fit into this larger picture for us? And anyone can just take that away.
Okay, so I think working on Another Day, I mean, I feel like Black Lives Matter isn't just about the physical lives that are taken. We matter. So like all the mental scars that we have after all of these years of us feeling like we're not good enough or always being made fun of for no reason at all because we're different and people don't like different apparently. I would say that that's why it fits into BLM because it's like the mental scars that we have and just how we're treated in everyday life, which is just, it's unacceptable and it's not okay.
Yeah. And I also feel like it's a moment to have your voice amplified. Like for Black Lives Matter right now, we're centered on the conversation and people are stepping up into the forefront and having this conversation. But in the movie, Bobbi has her moment where she's actually on the stage and she's having her moment to kind of say how she feels and how she wants to be treated. So it kind of goes into the whole Black Lives Matter thing by amplifying the voice.
Yeah, I would also, I agree totally, and I would add, it's about the value of our lives and our gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Another Day and Bobby's story, and with the experiences of the women in Black Girl in Suburbia, it's not just about sharing some of the hard experience and some of the good things that Black girls deal with in suburbia on a daily basis, but also just their voice and how valuable our voices are, and highlighting that, and which for us and a lot of women in the film, and it's also about empowerment, and we don't get to see that enough, especially specifically young Black women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I second all of that. I was just going to say, when I think about Black Lives Matter, I also think Black stories matter and Black perspectives matter, especially like you just said, from our Black women. So these films getting to kind of look into the stories that Black women specifically face is really important to the movement because oftentimes we don't think about what our Black women go through as we're very often disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think that the films connect to Black Lives Matter. I think that it connects to Black Lives Matter because sharing our experiences, I think, is another aspect of just supporting Black people, like showing what we go through can help other people understand us, and I think that's important.
Nice. I like a lot. There was a theme throughout what everyone was saying of like your voice and sharing your voice. Can you maybe Bobbi and the girls talk about how these films themselves, because they are your true stories, sort of how has that come about in terms of your ability to express your voice and your experiences?
I for me, I get very nervous to stand up for myself in situations that we did see in both of the films, because like they were talking about, I just don't want to come off as like that girl that's too sensitive, or oh, she can't take it, or whatever, for just being made fun of for no reason. So I've always been very silent. So working on Another Day was something really different for me, and it was a way that I could say something through that, so that I didn't actually have to say it in person. And after people watched the film, they came to me and they were just telling me, I didn't know this offended you, or I was doing this to you and I'm so sorry. And it almost made me feel like crying, because I was like, okay, like now you guys are getting it, because I just couldn't form the words before. And I was just really happy to be a part of that, so the message could be conveyed. And I think that really helped share my voice, not only my voice, but a lot of like young Black girls' voices as well.
Yeah, going off of Bobbi, before seeing Another Day and also getting to work on set, and even before my mom made her documentary, I never saw my experiences on the screen for people to see. And I, like, growing up watching this movie being showed, my mom's documentary, I was amazed by how many people came out with a new perspective of the struggle that Black women go through. So that to me is just kind of shows the power of these films, that a new perspective for people who do not know our struggle can kind of come about from watching these and from seeing our experiences. So that's been really powerful for me.
Yeah, growing up, being able to have my mom's movie and seeing it and seeing myself represented meant a lot to me. And like Jayla said, I think it's just really like influential to and like important to show different audiences because you can learn a new perspective.
Did you all have friends who watched it, or like have you experienced audiences' reactions to your actual story, and what was that like?
Yeah, I have an interesting story. So in the movie, I was talking about a girl who had made fun of my hair, and I still remember. I won't say her name, but we turned out we became friends when we were older, probably like middle school. And I remember she sat down and watched it with me, and when that story came up, she was like, "Did someone say that to you? That's terrible." And I didn't have the heart to tell her that it was her, but that was pretty. Yeah, that was kind of funny.
Jayla actually said her name, but I edited it out.
Oh yeah.
Because she was like worried that the girl was gonna,
yeah.
her.
Yeah, that was a funny thing. But yeah, I've actually had quite a few friends watch the movie and really be able to kind of gain a new perspective on what my experience is, and especially being at school, because in high school we went to a PWI, which was a lot different from my middle school. But yeah, so it's been really cool to see my friends watch it and gain a lot of knowledge from it.
Did you get
was
a
that
chance,
question?
Bobbi?
Oh, okay.
Or just any of you whose story it is?
Yeah, the like when I was saying earlier, like people coming up to me, I'm not gonna name names either. But this year, my freshman year, there was this one girl who would repeatedly touch my hair, and I feel like maybe I said something once, but she didn't really take it that seriously, because maybe I was trying to say it as a joke, because I do get very anxious and nervous about those situations. But anyway, after the film came out, a few days later, like in class, she was like, "Hey, like I didn't know that touching your hair was like that for you, and I'm so sorry. Like, that was me. Like, I'm that I do that to you, and I'm really sorry, and I won't do it again. And I was like, oh man, like, thank you, really. Like, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And basically the rest of the day I was just really happy and like feeling warm inside, because I was just really happy that, yeah, I don't know, that was really cool. I loved
And then Summer and Melissa, how was it for you all telling these stories? Obviously, before this current thrust of the Black Lives Matter movement, and then how does it feel like seeing it again now?
Ooh. Okay, I'll jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Before we did another day, I want to give a shout out to Melissa, because I think when I first met you, Melissa, I met you through your documentary. You were having a screening at, I believe it was Northwest Documentary. You had like a whole bunch of like teenage girls there, and you showed your film. And I remember getting so emotional because at that time I was in graduate school, and I was feeling like the only black girl, because I was the only black girl in class. And so I was at a point where me as a grown up, in my 30s, I'm thinking of quitting school because I can't take it anymore. And so I went to her film and not even knowing that it was going to be like that. And, I started telling my story to some of the girls, the young girls in there. And I don't know if you remember this, Melissa, but a young black girl stood up and she was like, please don't quit school, because we are looking at you, we're watching you, and you are inspiration to us. I mean, why did she even do that to me? Like, I just started crying. Like, oh my God, it just went
We
crazy.
all started crying.
Yeah, it was a hot mess up in there. So, like, it was interesting because it's like I'm going through that at 30 something years old. And then, like, to see that Melissa went through that at her age, and then Bobbi going through that, like, every single generation is going through the same thing. So that was like really eye opening and very frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, oh my God, Summer, that you just totally jerked my memory to that moment.
Yeah.
And I remember
Ooh.
you were so distraught. Like, I remember I was just, my heart, because you were just like you said, you were like, I'm done. I can't take it.
Mhm.
It's over. And we didn't even know each other, but I was like feeling you. I was like,
Yeah.
I get it. And then when that young woman stood up and said, don't quit. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, wow.
it.
It was a moment,
It was a moment.
but I'm so thankful that you came that day. And it was at the church downtown. I remember that was where that screening was, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I was crying the whole time. I
But I mean, I'll say with this film, and it's been about 5 years now since I've been showing it, and making it was so it was it allowed me to release a lot of my own trauma and my own anger and all the feelings that I had pent it up for over 20 years from living in West Lynn. And so it was making this film was really cathartic. And now I get to be on the other end, where I get to hear all kinds of Black women who, grew up in predominantly white communities or were bused into schools, into PWIs, um, and saying, this is my story. And I thought I would die before anybody would know that this is my story. Like, I've never talked about it. I thought it was just me. And when I hear that, it hurts my heart, but then I'm also like, I got you. Like, I I see you. It's real. Um, you matter, and your experience matters, and it's validating, to know that you are not by yourself in your experience, which is really the main reason I made it, was for these two, so that they knew that they were not by themselves in this experience.
Yeah. I mean, I even realized that we've all bonded so much uh, since we started these projects, and I just feel so protective over y'all and of Black women now. I mean, I've always been protective, but now it's different. It's like there's too much going on to not think, oh, so much love. Thank you. Who was that? But no, it's just like I feel like, you know, that saying like who protects Black women, you know? So it's like I feel like I have to when Bobby was telling me the story, I wanted to fight these little kids. I would have went to jail. Like you know how when it comes to this, like who's not guilty? I feel so protective of Black girls.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, wow. Um,
I'm like kids, okay? I'm kidding.
I'm just here observing all this love. I love it. Yeah, so these films are taking place in this space where it's so white dominated and white culture is the norm. And I remember a point in the documentary, Melissa, where she was saying, one of the women was saying, the only way to survive is to just blend in to this white dominated culture. What I want to know is, what should white people be asking themselves after they see this film? Like, what are the questions that they should be asking in order to reflect on their own participation in that culture, their own upholding of that culture, their own enforcement of that culture even? What are the questions that you wish white people had asked and should be asking after watching this?
So I don't know if I have a specific question, and I may after everybody shares, but I think it's more of the times that we're living in right now. I think it is imperative to white folks specifically in your own growth, this personal growth, to really understand what it means to be a white person in regards to race, racism, white supremacy, whiteness. Um, understand how do you show up in all of that as a white person. I guess it's a question. That's a question. When we talk, when we're having conversations around equity and diversity and inclusion, it usually falls on the shoulders of people of color to share our story. What we don't do enough is have white people talk about how they fit into this mix, right? So for me, it's really about the individual work. It starts with you. You know, you got to do your own research. You got to ask your own questions. You got to, if you don't know, don't go. I'm going to share this story real quick. My husband and I were out, and a white man walked up to him and was like, you know, he's a random Black man, and said, "Hey, what? I heard about this Black national anthem. I ain't never heard of that before, and the NFL's gonna start playing it. What's up with that?" So, which is what I say all the time. You should Google that. That's a great question. You should Google that. So again, for me, it's really about you doing your own work. How do you show up as a white person in these conversations, and not just put it on the shoulders of your friends of color and other BIPOC folks to do the work for you? It's a journey. I always say this is a marathon that we're in. So there's no finish line, around the corner. You're moving, you're tired, you're frustrated, you're moving slow, but then you got to pick yourself back up and you got to do the mental work to keep moving forward. So that would be my advice.
This isn't really a question, but I would just say for them to really check their privilege. Like, it's there. The privilege is really there and it shows, and they don't see it, which is another thing why it's so frustrating to speak up sometimes. but I just like they really don't see it. I'll try to have a conversation with my friends and they're like, well, why are you guys doing all of this just so your voices can be heard? This needs to be peaceful and all this stuff. And I'm like, you don't get it. People will automatically listen to you because you are white. They think everyone, even though I hate to say it because it's in my brain now from like growing up that they are superior and that they are better. So whatever they have to say, I should be listening to, or I should be acting the way they act and doing the way they do, which has impacted my life in not a great way, which I'm still trying to get out. But yeah, they just don't understand why we have to work so hard just to say stop killing us. And that's just something that's really disappointing. I really just need them to check their privilege. It's honestly, it's getting crazy at this point.
I would say be aware of the space you take up in conversations. Um, just I have so many examples. I don't even know where to start. But it's kind of like what Bobbi is saying. Like you don't really just like know everything just because you are like a white man. Like be aware that you're in conversation with other people and you don't have to necessarily agree, but give other people space to talk. And don't try to explain stuff to me. Like how you cannot explain what it's like about being a black woman to me or my struggles or anything like that. And I've had people try to do that before. It's wild. But let's see. Knowing when to be quiet and also knowing when to show up. Like honestly for me, I feel like I'm tired. I had a conversation with you again, Melissa, on our Portland Film Fatales meeting. Like I am tired of fighting. Like sometimes I just don't want to do it, and I want my white counterparts to be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna step in the gap for you, or I'm gonna protest for you. Um, so, like, ask yourself how you could be of service. How could you be of service but still be aware of the space that you're taking up?
To add on to that, I would say one thing that white folks can be asking themselves is how can I be actively anti-racist in my life, especially in the wake of Black Lives Matter, coming to the surface recently. It's not enough to just, be against racism, but you have to actively work towards being anti-racist in your own life and looking at your own biases and prejudices against people. Um, and like you said, working on yourself rather than trying to point out flaws in other people, because it starts with internal work first before you can put that out into the world.
Yeah, I think white people today just need to ask themselves, how can I educate myself? How can I understand what I'm saying is ignorant and why it's ignorant and why I need to stop, and how I can uplift and help see and just educate themselves.
Yeah, I know the question I asked myself as a white educator when I saw both films, but especially Another Day when that teacher's showing the graph in the classroom is like, how did she get there? Like, what was her idea that brought that about? And the scary part is like I could break down the steps of why she thought that was maybe a good idea. And it's like that questioning is what I'm so conscious of now after hearing these stories and how incredibly impactful the job of a teacher is and how easily it can cause so much harm.
I do want to say that is the single most talked about part when people come up to me is that teacher moment. And I'm like, when I say, that really happened, it's almost like I can see people, I can see their heartbreak. And they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, like this is our normal. Like this happens. And so, when we talked about it during our lunch, was it our lunch when we had all the kids together and we had like a DEI meeting, and the kids started to just start telling on the teachers. They're like, yeah, this person said this to this student, or they said that to that student, and I was afraid to speak up because I didn't want to get in trouble. But this happens all the time to our kids, especially BIPOC kids.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, wow. Really, really, really good pieces of advice and questions we should be asking ourselves as white educators. And then
Oh, wait.
oh yeah,
I have another
go
one.
off. Yeah.
Okay. So I would also say to especially white educators is to ask your coworkers, is this a good idea?
Mm,
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have a question about an assignment, especially in regards to race, identity, and something that could potentially cause harm, and you know this, and you are not feeling very confident in the beginning of, even if you're feeling confident, right? It never hurts to go ask for a second opinion. Just go to a coworker, just, hey there, Mr. Smith, I have a question for you. I just created this piece of curriculum on slavery and an exercise. Could you just take a look at it and let me know what you think? Low hanging fruit. And then listen to what the feedback is, right? Actually, I would say go ask two people, get two opinions on it. But again, specifically for our white educators.
and ask two white people first. Don't go to your one black coworker first.
Oh
Am
my
I
God.
right?
Oh my
I
God.
would agree. I would agree with that.
Don't do that.
Uh-huh. Or and if it's not teachers, then go ask somebody else. Just ask two other people.
Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks a lot to just accountability in general and how we need to sort of open up this conversation. I think teachers are afraid that if other teachers know what they're doing, then they'll be judged or criticized or something. But maybe that's the
Or
goal.
see
Like,
their,
say that again?
I said, or see their bias.
Yeah, exactly. And like, right, we can't address the bias until we see it. So it's only then that we can actually start improving ourselves as white educators.
I have a question for you, Christian.
Yeah.
Have you had any like pushback from your white counterparts regarding Another Day
Mm.
or Black Girl in Suburbia?
Um,
Teacher,
I screened it for my students only.
Okay.
But no, I didn't. The other teachers have not seen it, and the teachers that did see it sought it out, so they were supportive of the cause. So I can't honestly say that I did. The most interesting reaction I had from my students, because I work at a school with predominantly students of color, is, would there really be that many white kids in the school? Like, or is that just for the movie? And I was like, okay. Yeah, that's about 10 minutes from here where we filmed this. Yeah, so that was my most interesting reaction from my actual school. But I am on the equity team now at my school next year, so we'll see how the reactions from my white coworkers go to that. I'll
good
keep you
luck.
updated. Stay tuned.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall.
Yes, I'll just have my little recorder going. Wait, I shouldn't say that on record.
Live stream.
Yeah, we're actually going right now. So, okay. For serious, back to the serious part of it.
Yeah.
So these are all brilliant questions, and I think it's important too for us to remember that these questions need to be at the forefront even while we're online. So the next thing I sort of want to talk about is like, how does equity look for Black girls in an online learning landscape, which most of us are in right now? And like all of you girls have been online since the spring, right? In
Yeah.
high school. So yeah, how do we translate these sort of lessons and these questions we're asking to different space? How does this sort of white dominant school culture show up online?
This was happening when school was open, but I feel like teachers, especially in like the social studies area or history, really need to be teaching history and not like his story. Like it makes me, we barely learn like, okay, Black History Month, like for 1 week, everything that they think should be talked about gets like crammed into one little week, and then it's over, and Black people don't get talked about ever again, or really any other people of color don't get talked about. I feel all we learn about is white people and like what they've done for this country and how they're so patriotic and how they're so amazing and all of this stuff. And then people of color, we're just sitting here just like, okay, well, what have we done to contribute to society? What good have we have done? Or are we just here because you guys are so great? You've allowed us to be here. And we should be like worshiping you. I don't know. That's just like a problem I've always felt. We never really get to learn about ourselves. So maybe I don't know if this online thing would maybe help teachers do that, but that definitely needs to be incorporated because we need to learn about our history too. We're here. We're here. Yeah.
I think I'm taking U.S. history this year, and as you just said, I feel like we need like an actual unit about Black history, POC history, because I mean, my entire life I've mostly only heard white history, white straight history. I think we need to really go in depth and not erase like just POC history. Yeah, adding on to that, I think even when we do have the few sections where we might learn about BIPOC history or POC history in general, there's no discussion about the impact of the figures and history. Like when we're talking about the civil rights movement, for example, there's no discussion about like the impact of that. So I feel like along with these units that need to be implemented, we also need to have active discussions about how that has contributed to our country now and how our many BIPOC leaders throughout history have helped shape the nation as it is. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the times when it is mentioned, it flies over people's heads because the importance of that history is not talked about. So I feel like bringing in this equity into this virtual space, there needs to be active conversations about the contributions of BIPOC people throughout history.
Yeah, I think what we're working on right now is how do we create spaces, affinity spaces, spaces for our BIPOC students to be. So before quarantine, my office was that space, right? It was a place where I can go and I could, exhale, and I can, I don't have to explain anything to anybody because everybody in the space, not everybody, most of the people in the space know what I'm dealing with today, right? Um, so that's definitely something we are trying to recreate. And I say trying because we haven't done this before. So what it looks like right now is just, how do we connect via Zoom? How do we again create these spaces for our students that, at school, being physically on campus, they can at least come together and be together. Where how do you recreate that in a virtual space? So again, it's going to be us stumbling moving forward and figuring that out. But that's definitely a concern for me to make sure because, again, equity doesn't go away just because we moved online, right? So it definitely means that we have to think outside of the box and what that looks like.
Oh, I have nothing. I'm just listening.
And I don't know if I said this in the intro, but Melissa is a diversity director at a high school in Portland as well. So she does education work as well as filmmaking work, which I obviously admire. Um, did you, student age ladies, did you have access to an affinity space in the spring when you went online, or how did that look when we went online in the spring?
Yeah, I don't even know. Because I know I was in Black Student Union, and then I don't think it continued after that. If it did, I wasn't a part of it. Um, but yeah, nothing really. We didn't really have like Zoom calls or anything like that. No emails about how it's gonna look. So I think it was discontinued.
Yeah, I was gonna say my mom opened up her diversity office virtually, so that was pretty much the only space I would say was a bit of like an affinity group that we got to meet virtually with. But other than that, yeah, none of the clubs really met virtually. I think it was also new that nobody was even thinking about that, which is really unfortunate. But I hope going into the school year, we can remember how important those spaces are, and people can hopefully hold those throughout the year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That is so exciting. Well, I think we will do some final thoughts. And if anyone has any questions and wants to put them in the comment section, we can project those questions up here and answer them if you want. I'll open it right up to the audience. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can comment below. But do we have any final sort of reflections on whether it's these films in the Black Lives Matter movement, whether it's the questions white folks should be asking right now, or whether it's like digital learning and equity in that space? Any sort of final reflections on any of those things?
All right. Well, not that so much. It's more so just being grateful. I'm grateful to Bobbi for trusting me with a story. I mean, grateful for you, Pearson, for pushing me seriously. Um, and now I'm so inspired to tell more stories and to tell my own truth and to write and to make more art that makes people think and makes people want to make changes and stuff like that. So I'm just grateful. Y'all are part of my story.
Aw,
Ditto, ditto.
love you.
I would say that our stories are timeless. They are always going to be relevant. I mean, in addition to it being specifically about a Black girl's experience, it's also about identity. It's also about growing. It's about you know, what a community looks like around what this experience. So yeah, we are a part of history, and again, we're living in a time right now where we need these stories now more than ever.
I think I would just say it's just great not feeling alone in all of this. Like I've gotten the chance to talk with each and every one of you, and we all got to talk about our experiences, and it's really crazy how we all relate. But at the same time, I am thankful for that because we have each other. We can build each other up. We can make each other strong when we feel like we're not. Which is another reason why I'm just so thankful I got to do another day and just tell my story, which was a little, the struggle was real a little bit, but I'm happy that we got to pull through it. I'm just really thankful for every one of you guys, and yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Favorite part.
Oh.
Ooh, favorite part. Oh my gosh. I have so many. Like well, I on another day, I the day that I was there while you guys were shooting at the school, I mean, this didn't make it into the film, but this conversation that Summer was talking about earlier, where we were in the cafeteria and all the kids, all the students from the film, we were all sitting there and just it was such a it was uncomfortable and there was a lot of truth being told, but the maturity of all of the young people that were a part of that, like it was so inspiring. Again, not in the film, but it was my favorite part of the making of Another Day. For a Black girl in suburbia, there was just um, so many things that I learned um, moving through the film. But really, for me, it was meeting all of the people that were a part of it. So, yeah.
Yeah,
For Another Day. Oh, sorry. Oh, you can go.
Okay, mine's short. I was gonna say I had the pleasure of being a PA on the set of Another Day, and Summer created such a wonderful and comfortable space for everyone to be in, which I just adored. And it was amazing to watch her and Bobbi and the rest of the actors work. I just had such an amazing time. And we also got to have some pretty great discussions, at least I did with a couple of the other actors who were on set, which was just really amazing. So I just am so happy that I was able to be a part of this incredible film. So thank you, Summer, for letting me be a part of it.
Oh, thank you. That was awesome.
It was great. I feel like definitely the discussions that we had with the kids who were a part of Another Day, that was also one of my favorite moments. And also just creating the script with Pearson and Summer, like we cried together, we laughed together, a lot of feels at that point. We were very vulnerable, which is that was another, just creating it. That was one of my favorite parts too, because maybe you felt as if you were alone and I did too, but we had each other. Just backtracking to what I said before, and it was a great feeling. The creating process was great. It was amazing.
Yeah. It was definitely a healing project for me for so many different things. I think my favorite part was being the director in terms of like connecting with the actors outside of the camera. So like, yeah, of course, I yell action, we do that, but when the camera went down, that was my favorite part because we got to talk through a lot of things. And one of my favorite parts, even though it's like, it was kind of hard to do, was when Bobbi got really upset and she was in the office with the principal and her father asked her and she started crying because, she was afraid. And we talked through that. And then I even talked to the boy who harassed Bobbi in the film. And he was so scared to kind of do this role. And he's just like, I just want to tell you that I'm not racist. I'm like, oh, baby, I know you ain't racist. It's like, I got to talk him through it. It's like, listen, this doesn't mean that you're racist. This is just something that happened to Bobbi. You're just playing a role. So I really, really enjoyed building the relationship with the cast.
You know what I just thought about too that day, and the reason that we started this conversation with the young actors was remember that we had seen some of them actually writing the graph down on their notebook paper. Remember? And then some of them were even adding in their own notes.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, ooh, let's have a talk.
Let's unpack that.
Well, thank you so much, all of you, for being here, for sharing your stories, for being so vulnerable, and for just being so inspirational, too. I feel the love in this virtual room, and it's giving me hope in this scary, dark time. I don't even know what the beginning of the school year is going to look like, what the future of the country is going to look like. So, yes, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you. And now it's on us, white educators. I'm looking at you and I'm looking at me because we are the ones that got to do the work to actually make this a reality and sort of make sure that Black students know that their lives matter, which is crazy that they don't, but that they feel like they don't, but we've seen in these stories and these perspectives that it is should be our top priority to make sure that every student matters in our classroom, especially our Black students. So let's get to work. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Please follow us at Golden Pride Productions. And Another Day is fully available on goldenprideproductions.com too. We had to cut the song a little short just so it could fit in an hour. So watch that whole glorious original song and performance by Bobbi MacKenzie. And yeah, tune in
And
to whatever's next.
Bobbi. She won.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
and Bobbi just won Best Actress in the Oregon Short Film Festival for that performance. So really,
Thank
so
you, guys.
good.
Thank you. Wouldn't have been possible. Would not have been possible without you guys. And I do thank all of you because this would have never happened. I'm really thankful. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's trending?
Mom's popping in.
Oh, Mom.
These are so sweet.
Oh, I love this. This is cool.
All right, well, thanks y'all so much. And yeah, bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Thanks.